Abandoned in a lightless oubliette deep inside a rogue warship, an alien girl counts her last breaths, until a lone human operative blows open the cell and pulls her into the stars. But escape is only the beginning. Every whisper of the void draws them closer, and the secrets chained inside her heart may be deadlier than any prison. Will his daring rescue spark the galaxy's next war, or ignite a love powerful enough to defy every cosmic law? Silence smothered the oubliette except for the metronomic drip of coolant somewhere beyond the jagged hatch. The cell's only prisoner, slender, silvery-skinned, and barely more than a whisper against the corroded bulkhead, had learned to measure time by that drip. 187,000 drops since her abductors deserted the rogue warship, leaving its power core to sputter in low cycle mode. Each drop stole another breath of warmth from her veins, another memory of the lush moon she once called home. She did not know the Terran name she would later adopt, for now she clung only to the syllables her mother had given her, Isol. They tasted like starlight on her tongue, and she repeated them whenever the dark pressed too close. Her captors had chased rare biotech hidden in her blood, enzymes rumored to repair failing organs, and when the bidding war turned lethal, they abandoned both ship and specimen to rot in deep drift rather than let rivals claim the prize. The irony would have amused her if her lips weren't too numb to curl. She suspected the air scrubbers would fail within a cycle, maybe two. Then the drip would outlive her. A new sound shattered the pattern, a hollow thunk reverberating through hull plates, followed by the scrape of metal on metal. Isol's internal frills flared in shock. Someone was boarding. She crawled to the cell door and pressed one translucent earfin against the seam. Boots thudded, purposeful, scanning beams sliced darkness, and a voice muttered in standard Terran, low and tense. She understood only fragments. The pirates spoke that language when they argued over profits. Something about reactor time limits, salvage priorities, a name, Lieutenant Rourke. The lock sparker hissed. Blue sparks danced across the hatch gasket until bolts spat free. The door sagged outward and a narrow beam stabbed inside, painting Isol in pale light. She threw up an arm against the glare and glimpsed her rescuer, human male, lean under matte armor, eyes sharp behind a half-raised visor. He swept the cell, weapon ready, then froze when he saw her shackles, the bruise blooming along her collar edge. Evidence of a too-tight slave collar long since removed but never forgotten. Clear, he said into his mic, though his voice betrayed a quiver of surprise. He holstered the pistol, knee-walked to her side, and produced a field torch. Easy. I'm here to get you out. The language barrier yawned between them, yet his tone gentled the way light softens through mist. She answered with the only Terran word she trusted, help. He sliced the wrist manacles with practiced flicks. When cold metal clanged to the deck, pain tingled along newly freed nerves. She winced. He offered a hydration pouch, guiding her trembling fingers. Water, actual water, slid down a throat raw from recycled fumes, and tears she didn't know she had left welled in her prism eyes. I'm Rourke, he said, pressing a translation tab to his throat while clipping another to the torn fabric near her clavicle. Static crackled, then her own language echoed back in a tinny approximation, safe. Follow. Her breath caught at hearing her tongue from alien tech. She nodded once, though standing seemed impossible. Rourke solved that, scooping her into a fireman's carry lighter than any bounty hunter had managed. He was warm, sun-warm, a sensation she thought existed only in memory. As he jogged into the corridor, Isol's gaze skimmed his visor display reflected in a panel. Reactor countdown, 10 minutes. So little margin between rescue and oblivion. They threaded mazes of warped passageways, past storage holds where stolen goods floated like ghosts in failing graph fields. A tremor rattled the decks, coolant vapor hissed through stress cracks. Rourke adjusted grip and picked up speed. Docks this way. Keep her breathing, he barked to an unseen partner. No reply came, only the echo of his boots and the ship's groaning death rattle. He rounded a bend, and cursed. A pressure door hung twisted over a gulf where the corridor had ruptured. Beyond, open space gaped, shards of hull plating drifted, sparkling. The direct path to his shuttle was gone. He tapped wristcom. Sarah, hatch 4 collapsed. Secondary route. White noise. Jammers? Or the reactor's EM surge scrambling comms. Rourke weighed seconds, then spun toward maintenance shafts etched in schematics he'd memorized en route. He ducked into a narrow crawlspace, shoulders scraping conduits, while Isol's labored breaths puffed against his neck. Her pulse fluttered like trapped wings. He murmured reassurance he doubted the translator caught, not losing you. Not after finding you. The shaft spat them into a cargo bay stacked with canisters of volatile plasma coolant. One spark and everything would flash to starfire. Alarm klaxons now howled shipwide, a drowning beast's final cry. Rourke sprinted across grated flooring. Halfway, a tremor bucked the deck, a canister toppled, cracking a valve. Electric blue vapor jetted out. Instinct overriding exhaustion, Isel flung an arm toward the leak. Her species could manipulate magnetic gradients. She focused the dwindling ions in her blood, coaxing the spray away from Rourke's path. The effort sent knifing pain through her chest, but the plume arced aside instead of engulfing them. Rourke didn't notice the miracle, but he felt the deck stay solid and pushed harder. Minutes ticked, 5-4. At last a personnel hatch slid open onto the docking catwalk where his stealth tender clung like a barnacle. The airlock recognized his bio-sign and cycled. He set Isel inside the medpod cradle, slapped the seal, then vaulted to the cockpit. Engines roared to life just as sensors registered a reactor breach. He punched full thrust, and the tender slung clear of the doomed warship, outracing a blossom of white-hot fury that belched from the stern and disintegrated its carcass into nebular glitter. Only after the shockwaves faded did he slump back, heart hammering. He toggled internal cams. The alien girl lay beneath biogauze, eyelids fluttering, her lips shaping words the translator caught only partially. "I will not forget the sky." He swallowed. "Neither will I." An hour later, with the tender coasting on silent drive, Rourke knelt by the med cradle. Isel's vitals had stabilized, though fatigue etched shadows beneath her opalescent eyes. "I'm charting a course for Sol Humanitarian Station," he told the translator. "Doctors, there no off-world physiology." She absorbed the information, then reached, hesitant, touching his gloved hand. Cool fingers, but pulse strong. Her expression held questions no lexicon covered, yet gratitude outweighed fear. Outside the viewport, reef blue stardust streaked past. Rourke realized he was still holding her hand. He eased free, self-conscious, but she caught his wrist, gentle but sure. The translator whispered her thought, "Stars change fate, but hearts steer the way." Heat bloomed across his cheeks, absurd reaction for a Black Ops lieutenant seasoned against every ambush but this, the sudden gravity of another being's trust. Rourke cleared his throat. "Rest now. We'll have time to talk when you're safe." She closed her eyes, but not before a faint smile curved those luminous lips, sealing a promise neither fully understood yet both already believed. Behind them, the ruined warship spun into obscurity, shackles melting in its reactor's tomb. Ahead lay systems where laws might brand her a biological asset, corporations might hunt her for the enzymes still glimmering in her blood. Rourke plotted evasive vectors, vowing silently to stay at her side through every tribunal, every firefight, every sunrise she had never seen. Somewhere between that lost moon and this fragile rescue, a new orbit had formed, two bodies drawn together by peril, now tethered by something quieter, stronger, far less predictable than gravity. He didn't yet call it love, and she hadn't yet learned the Terran word. But in the hush of the cockpit, as engines hummed a lullaby across the dark, both understood that the drip-measured loneliness of their past lives had ended the moment the hatch blew open and one heart reached for another. The tender slid into Solarian Station's dusklit hangar, thrusters sighing as though relieved to hand its fragile passengers to steadier arms. When the ramp lowered, warm, humid air swept over Isel's skin, so different from the metallic chill of the oubliette that she shivered despite the heat. Lieutenant Rourke steadied her with a hand at her back, guiding her toward a cluster of medtechs who hovered like anxious birds. She should have been afraid, new lights, new scents, humans everywhere, but Rourke's palm was an anchoring star. She let herself be led. Doctors ushered her into bioglass, bathing her in diagnostic light. Rourke paced outside, restless as a caged comet, until a silver-haired xenobiologist emerged with a cautious smile. "Your rescue was timely. Cellular oxidation had begun, but her enzyme complex is self-repairing. She'll recover." "Then gentler, she keeps asking for you." He entered, helmet tucked under arm. Isel sat cross-legged on the medcot, electrodes trailing like dew-wet vines from her temples. At his approach she brightened, all moonlit pools and unspoken gratitude. The bioglass parted. He knelt so their eyes met without strain. "How do you feel?" The translator pinned to her gown caught the rise and fall melody of her native vowels. "Like water touched by dawn." She extended her fingers, tentative. He offered his hand, her cool skin slid against his calloused palm, and the monitor's pulse flattened into a calm rhythm. The doctor arched a brow, murmured something about psychosomatic stabilization, and slipped away. Rourke meant to stay a minute, but stories poured out in stitched-together phrases. Childhood evenings chasing fireflies on Earth's Tennessee ridgelines, academy pranks, the first covert drop where fear tasted like copper on his tongue. Isel listened, lashes lowering and lifting as though painting each image inside her mind. When she tried to answer, words failed the translator's limited dictionary, so she cupped her hands and shaped pictures in the air. Spirals for her planet's twin moons, a sweeping arc for the crystal forests where wind sang. He watched, spellbound, realizing language mattered less than the cadence of sharing. Recovery took days that blurred into quiet rituals. Rourke arrived each dawn cycle with fresh tea brewed from station gardens. Isel taught him to cool it by humming a note that nudged the steam into gentle swirls. They walked the arboretum's glass paths, her barefoot delighting in moss, him explaining constellations flickering beyond the dome. Sometimes she laughed, an iridescent trill that made nearby pedestrians pause, smiling without knowing why. News of her biotech value leaked despite station security. One night alarms wailed, a data breach traced to a corporate mercenary cell docked covertly. Rourke's old commander recalled him to active defense. Firefights spattered the service corridors. Rourke moved with lethal precision, yet every recoil felt heavier because each shot echoed the possibility of failing her now. He cornered the infiltration leader outside life support junctions. "You want her enzymes?" he snarled, carbine steady. "Try extracting them from my bones." The mercs folded, station marshals shackled them for tribunal. After the smoke cleared, Rourke found Isel in the observation lounge, forehead pressed to glass steel, twin moons of her memory mirrored in soul's distant glow. Fear quivered in her gill lines. He approached silently, but she sensed him, turning with eyes vast and storm-bright. The translator faltered under the rush of syllables. It managed only fragments. "Danger follows. I bring shadows. Leave me safe by leaving me." He should have answered with strategy or protocol. Instead, Rourke stepped forward until their breaths mingled on the glass. "Shadows shrink in light. Stay where I can keep you in it." His throat tightened. Confession tasted more terrifying than any firefight. "I didn't break those shackles just to watch someone else chain your heart." Silence swallowed them. Then her fingers rose, brushed the ridge of the scar above his brow. "Heart," she echoed, tentative. He captured her hand, pressed it flat to his chest where his pulse hammered reckless truth. "It won't slow unless I know you're free, and you're with me." Isel's pupils dilated, swirling galaxies. She lifted both hands, splaying delicate digits along his jaw, and drew closer until only air's thinnest shimmer separated skin from skin. Translator lights flickered, failed, unable to parse the language now spoken only by proximity. She didn't need it. She closed the last breath of distance and kissed him. It was a soft collision, like dawn on still water, yet it sent Rourke reeling more than G-forces ever could. Her lips were cool, a faint luminescence bloomed where they met, stardust dancing between species. When they parted, she whispered in broken standard, "Home with you." 2 words, perfect. The station issued refugee credentials the next cycle. Lawyers negotiated safe passage to any allied world. Biotech firms howled but legal precedent held. Rourke signed reassignment papers, declining promotion for a quieter berth, civilian liaison aboard the survey cutter Morningtide. Its next mission would chart unclaimed sectors, vast, anonymous, far from those who'd brand Isel a resource. She stood beside him at the docking ring, wearing a jumpsuit the color of dawn-lit frost. In her pack lay seeds from station gardens. In his, antique vinyl loaded with Earth's slow love songs to teach her. The twins' moons of her childhood were years away, yet when the cutter's bay doors sealed and engines hummed, she squeezed his hand and murmured, "Found a better sky." They spent first watch on the observation deck, hull windows yawning open to infinity. Stars smeared into silver threads as the ship slipped into FDL. Rourke wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She leaned, unfurling inner frills in contentment. "Drop," she said suddenly, gesturing toward the silent cosmos. He frowned, unsure. She repeated the motion, so he retrieved a copper coin, a bit of Earth nostalgia, placed it in her palm. She pressed a kiss to its surface, then flicked it into the dark. A glint, a tumble, then nothing. "Old sorrow," she explained. "Gone." Rourke kissed her temple. "And new joys." She turned, eyes gleaming. "Held here." She laid his hand over her fluttering sternum, then over his own. 2 heartbeats, sinking. Outside, StarSense whispered endless maps, but neither looked away from the simple orbit they had entered, gravity not of physics but of promise. Somewhere beyond sensor range, forgotten shackles drifted cold and useless among debris fields. On board Morningtide, laughter spilled down corridors where a human taught an alien the off-key chorus of an 80-year-old love ballad, and she corrected his pitch by shaping air into gentle reverberations that turned each note crystalline. Crew members smiled, trading bets on how long before the captain officiated an interspecies union. The odds tightened daily. No beacon of distress tugged at them now, no bounty hunter's scope glinted in pursuit. What remained was quieter, a life stitched from borrowed languages, shared tea, midnight kisses beneath alien constellations. Rourke once believed the universe's greatest mystery was at the edge of map space, Now he knew it lived in the soft curve of a smile that had survived darkness. Isel had thought freedom simply meant an open door. Now she learned it could be the warm enclosure of arms that vowed to stay. The cutter sailed on, a speck in the cosmic tide, carrying two souls who had escaped all prisons but the beautiful one they built together. A promise repeated every dusk cycle when engine lights dimmed and they lay entwined, whispering dreams neither translator nor star chart could fully capture, yet both somehow understood.